And we begin with breaking news in Salem, where a shooting has left one person dead and two others hurt. Two of the victims are under 18 years old. Now, Salem police tell us this happened around 1:45 this afternoon at Bush's Pasture Park. They were called to the area of High and LaFell Streets and found three people with gunshot wounds. One of them was dead, and the other two were taken to the hospital. Now, we don't know the age of the person who died or the condition of the two people injured. We do have a crew on the way to Salem right now, and of course, we will update you as we learn more. Well, Oregonians could soon have new protections against unfair debt collection. The state legislature just passed a bill that keeps debt collectors from wiping out someone's bank account and helps protect wages from being garnished. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Tim Gordon. Investigative reporter Kyle Boshi has been covering these aggressive tactics over the past few years in a series of reports called The Cost of Collections. He's in the newsroom. Kyle, what does this mean for Oregonians?
Tim, this is an important bill. It impacts really all kinds of people. Think about it. Most households have debt. In fact, 16% of Oregonians currently have a debt in collections. That's about 680,000 people. Previously, as we've reported, Oregon has been pretty lousy in protecting family finances from debt collectors, but this bill could change that. Over the past few years, we've heard the horror stories. Oregon consumers pushed around by debt collectors for bills they didn't owe or accounts in the wrong name. Last year, we told you about a debt collection company who unexpectedly wiped out one man's bank account, leaving John Salazar no money for rent or funds to help care for his disabled brother.
I've worked so hard to try to build this to where we are right now. You know, we have a home, we pay our bills on time. We're just average Americans, working class people, and to have them come in and just take everything from us, you know, it just blows me away.
But that can't happen under a new bill passed by the Oregon legislature.
It does make me feel a lot better knowing that enough people heard my story and it was told over and over again, and it was used to help push legislation.
The Family Financial Protection Bill provides several new protections for Oregonians working to pay back their debts. It restricts the amount of wages that can be garnished, prevents people from losing their home during debt collection, and protects $2,500 in someone's bank account so they can pay for their basic needs. No longer can debt collectors seize someone's entire bank account.
It feels really good to know that people going forward who are in my situation won't have to worry about their bank accounts being frozen and losing all of their money and not able to pay their rent or their bills, because that is scary.
The bill also makes it easier for consumers to file complaints and go after debt collectors for bogus claims. After passing the House yesterday, the bill now goes to Governor Tina Kotek's desk.
Important protections. Kyle, thanks. Well, Oregon lawmakers also passed the first two bills in state history that regulate artificial intelligence. Sydney Dorner is live in Salem. And Sydney, you spoke with the two lawmakers sponsoring these bills. What are their concerns with AI?
Yes, Tim. Today I spoke with Representative Daniel Wynn and Senator Aaron Woods about their two bills they're sponsoring to better regulate the use of AI. They say artificial intelligence is becoming incredibly popular, meaning it's time to put legislation in place so people know exactly what they're consuming. House Bill 4153, approved by the Senate Wednesday, would create a task force to study the consequences of artificial intelligence. Senate Bill 1571, sponsored by Senator Woods, would require political campaigns to disclose the use of AI in advertisements or any other forms of communication.
You can be duplicated, voice, facial recognitions, all of that. And then what's being said is not really what you said.
Now, under the bill, the Oregon Secretary of State will be in charge of enforcing this disclosure rule. Senator Wood says fines for not disclosing the use of AI could reach up to $10,000. Both bills are now headed towards Governor Tina Kotek for her signature. In Salem, I'm Sydney Dorner. Back to you, Tim.
All right, Sydney, thanks a lot. On the topic of another bill that is awaiting Governor Kotek's signature will make it a crime to use drugs on public transportation. It will be treated as a high-level misdemeanor now. That's one step below a felony and carries a maximum sentence of up to 364 days in jail, a $6,000 fine, or both. TriMet says the change will help make buses and MAX trains safer for both operators and riders.
This gives us an additional tool, one amongst many that we've really been developing over the last couple years to ensure safety on the system and really to limit drug use and eliminate it completely here at TriMet.
And the governor is expected to sign that bill. Well, on the topic of drugs, Oregon's fentanyl crisis is getting worse as more young kids are being exposed to it. A new study out today shows a sharp rise of these cases in just the last 3 years. Doctors at OHSU talked to the media today. John Adams was there and joins us live from the campus. So, John, tell us about their findings.
Yeah, Tim, the findings show that fentanyl exposures amongst children under the age of 6 has increased dramatically here in the state of Oregon over the past few years, and that those exposures are mostly preventable. Now, the Oregon Poison Center says that 16 children under the age of 6 were exposed to fentanyl in 2023. There were no reported cases as recently as 2020. The findings follow warnings from the Portland police in late 2023 who say 3 children under the age of 6 died from fentanyl exposure in the city between June and September of last year. Dr. Rob Hendrickson with the Oregon Poison Center says 80% of the cases they studied occurred at a child's home with fentanyl tablets that were easily accessible.
What is remarkable about these cases is how severe they were. The children are exposed when they're ingesting a tablet. They're exposed to a very large amount of fentanyl, which is not common in a single pill with most other things.
Well, the study was part of a larger nationwide study that was published today in the New England Journal of Medicine, and across the country they're seeing similar numbers that we're seeing here in the state of Oregon, a 450% rise in fentanyl exposures among young children in the United States over the past 3 years. Tim.
All right, John, thanks a lot. Well, tonight, President Biden will speak to Congress and the nation in his State of the Union address. One of the key issues, especially among young voters, is U.S. support for Israel in the war in Gaza.
There's something very horrible, horrendous happening, and I believe this administration can do a lot more about that.
Well, President Biden is set to announce tonight that the U.S. military will lead emergency efforts to construct a port on Gaza's coast to get more humanitarian aid to the Palestinian civilians. He'll also address negotiations to free Hamas-held hostages and support for Ukraine. And the president is also expected to focus on the economy, reproductive rights, and protecting democracy. And you can watch the State of the Union right here on KGW starting at 6 tonight. It also means our news lineup is changing tonight. There's no news at 6, the story, or the good stuff. But we will have a special edition of KGW News at 9 tonight. As for the war in Gaza, Hamas now says its delegation has left Cairo and talks of a ceasefire and hostage release will continue next week. That makes it unlikely there will be a deal before the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins. Both sides are at a stalemate. Hamas says any ceasefire must lead to an end in the war, something Israel says it cannot accept.
Where is the acknowledgement of the 30,000 people who have been killed? Innocent civilians.
Meantime, tensions were especially high during a Multnomah County board meeting tonight. In the end, commissioners unanimously passed a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Ashley Grams joins us now. And Ashley, that meeting was packed with people.
Tim, it was so full the county had to open up an overflow room. Many took the opportunity to share their own perspective on the war. Take a listen.
Shame on you! Shame on you! They ran a concert.
Shouts of anger disrupted a Multnomah County Commissioners meeting on Thursday.
The ceasefire resolution should have been passed months ago. That's right!
A resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza topped the agenda.
I'm here to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and hope the county can pass such a resolution today.
Many stood in support of Palestine and the resolution, carrying posters, waving flags.
I did not think I would be wearing a shirt calling for a ceasefire 4 months in. Where is the acknowledgement of the 30,000 people who have been killed? Innocent civilians.
Palestinian
Zia Laboff is part of Jewish Voice for Peace in Portland.
It is very in line with Judaism to speak out against injustice.
Hamas, who is never mentioned by name.
But not all Jewish people attending the meeting shared the same views.
Certainly the non-empathy for the Israelis through all of this certainly came out loud and clear.
Mark Blattner is the president of the Jewish Federation of Greater Portland.
It should be made clear that Israel is not at war with the people of Gaza. It is at war with Hamas. We believe that these ceasefire resolutions should fully acknowledge the atrocities of October 7th, including the ongoing trauma of the people of Israel.
Despite the pushback, Blattner does want the violence to end.
Our hope is that the war will eventually come to an end, but that end requires that the hostages are released and that Hamas is out of power.
As testimony drew to a close, county commissioners voted unanimously to pass the resolution.
Aye. The resolution as amended is adopted.
It should not be controversial to call for an end to violence. And so there's so much more work to be done.
Well, Multnomah County joins dozens of cities across the U.S. calling for peace in Gaza, but so far the city of Portland has avoided that declaration and has not reviewed any similar resolutions. Tim?
Ashley, thanks. Well, authorities continue to search for 3 escapees from the McLaren Youth Correctional Facility in Woodburn. The trio ran away on the night of February 18th. You can see them on your screen right now. From left to right, they are Angel Diaz Barrera, Julian Diaz Navarro, and Xavier Swim. All 3 are 19 years old and have warrants for their arrest. Call 911 if you see them. Well, a Washington woman has been arrested in a horrific case of animal abuse. It started last November when a lineman crew found an English retriever hurt in a ditch near Mount St. Helens. The dog had been shot in the head and had his snout duct taped. Well, yesterday, detectives arrested his previous owner in Castle Rock. 33-year-old Jessica Rosita Schmidt is now charged with first-degree animal cruelty. The good news is the dog, now named Trooper, recovered from his injuries, and miraculously, really, he has since been adopted.